Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Matt's Mindset Monday. And today I'm super excited because we get to talk about something that I'm very passionate about in addition to mindset, and that is be, do, achieve. Who do you have to be in order to consistently do the things you need to do in order to achieve what you want out of life? And I found that when I was first starting my journey in regards to this, I actually had the order slightly different. I thought that once I achieved a certain amount of things, then I got to do what I wanted to do, and then I would become who I wanted to become. But in actuality, in order to achieve something, then it takes consistent activities over time, and that's the do part. And then in order to do that consistently, it is who do we have to become? So it's not just about changing who we are as a person. My values aren't changing. What I stand for isn't changing, but what I consistently do over time has changed. So I've become somebody who is comfortable with the top 20%, my big rocks, in order to be able to achieve all the things that I want to achieve. And today we're going to bring on a couple of special guests, not just one, but you get two for one package here with Sarah and Zack Barnes with the Barnes Group at Keller Williams. So I'm going to turn it over to them and just let them do a quick little introduction on who they are. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and your family.
Hey, thanks for having us on. So I'm Sarah Barnes. I was raised in Whitesville, Kentucky on an 81-acre farm. I graduated high school from Davis County in 2005. Zach and I got married in 2007. We had our first son in 2009. And then I lost my mom to suicide in 2011. And after that, I wanted to finish my associate's degree. We opened up a daycare, and then I became a licensed realtor in 2018, and I've never looked back.
And my name is Zach. I grew up in Maceo, Kentucky, so we was enemies growing up, but we ended up bonding. So I never did finish college. I went right after high school. I took a semester off, and I never did go back. I went right to work in the factories. I was an electrician. So I worked construction sites for about 5 years before I did this. Shortly after she was licensed, I went and got licensed. I saw what she was doing, and I was intrigued by it. And I was terrified to leave my job and dive into this. And I'm so glad I did, and I'll never look back.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to get into what you've accomplished here shortly. But first, for our viewers who listen all across the United States, tell us a little bit about this Maceo-Whitesville rivalry. Like, what?
It was just
everybody in there.
It was always just a joke at the parties. You don't like the Maceo guys, and they don't like the Whitesville guys. It was just always a joke.
Little territory battle there.
Territory battles, yeah.
So I had a friend in Whitesville. He was kind of like my brother, Daniel Rainier. And he had his little gang, and Zach had his little gang, and they were always like enemies, I guess.
We were frenemies.
Frenemies.
Right? Frenemies. I love it. So and Zach, for you, when you like you said, you went straight into the factories and you actually became an electrician, and then you were watching Sarah kind of do this real estate gig. You said something that I think is really powerful is, you were scared to make that leap. And talk to us a little bit about that and what ultimately, led to you doing.
Well, I already had my license, and I was still working, and, I would do a deal here and there. I didn't do much because I was so busy working, and I really wanted to just jump in and dive into this because I thought this was our future, but I was too scared to take the leap. And I had a limiting mindset, like, that it wouldn't work out, or I was just scared because we ran a daycare that failed. I was scared to do it again. And so I started praying for a sign, like, give me a sign to let me know I should do this. And that day at work, I was walking to my work van, and my van got stolen. My work van did. I said, that's my sign. I put my 2 weeks notice in that day. After my 2 weeks was up, the van was found. All my tools were returned. That was like a sign saying, hey, here was your sign, and here's all your tools back. So I know I'm taken care of. So I was like, this is going to work out. And I know it sounds crazy, but I took that. That was a big sign to me.
Yeah. I remember that day. I remember when me and you talking about that. I think he's popped to your head in the office and told me about that. And little did I know that this is I'd be sitting here on this podcast, if you will, with you a couple of years later, celebrating a bunch of success and talking about how far you've come. So let's talk about that a little bit. What, you all have accomplished a lot in the last couple of years. So tell us a little bit about your accomplishments, and then we'll dive into this episode.
So I became licensed, like I said, in 2018. And then it was 2019 when he became licensed, probably about 6 months after I'm wanting to say I was licensed, he got his license. And we have doubled our production each year. I think we went from 2.5 million to 4.3 million in 2019 to 2020. And then we did a little over we did 9.1 million last year. So each year we've doubled our production basically. And right now I'm working on starting a young professionals chapter here in Owensboro for our Owensboro and surrounding agents, as well as Evansville and Bowling Green. I'm president-elect of Aid the Homeless, and I helped put on our city's Christmas parade last year after it was canceled. So I'm always looking for ways to give back in our community. So Aid the Homeless and the Christmas parade, and I guess now trying to help grow other agents in our area.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that, I was doing the research for this, 2019, you had 15 closings. I believe that was the first year you guys were kind of together, like in terms of both full time. Went from 15, and then 2 years later, you did 51. You flipped the numbers, right? So, first of all, congratulations. That's some truly explosive growth. And I want to touch base on a couple of different things you said. I want our viewers to understand the growth that you've had, and then the next thing is tell us a little bit about this YP chapter that you're launching, because I think it's an amazing thing that you're doing there.
So Young Professionals is kind of like a community within Keller Williams. It's kind of to help young people under the age of 40 make their way to leadership at an excelled rate, at a faster rate. And so that's something that I've found a passion for lately, is helping get other agents I want to make other people's lives bigger. So we actually hired, I left it out, but we hired our first admin last year. And so we're just looking for people that we can grow with us. And so YP, I feel like, helps me be able to tap into that a little bit deeper.
And I know Zach, she's, the president-elect on Aid the Homeless and put on the Christmas parade, but I know you're heavily involved in that stuff as well. So tell us a little bit about, from your standpoint, the community involvement and the things that y'all are doing around that.
Like she gets her hands in so many things and then asks me for help. I don't have time to get my hands in as much because I'm too busy helping her, because she's just always has something going on, and I admire that. I really appreciate that about her. Like with the tornadoes, we was down there every day. You were there. You were there with us. We were there, and things like that. I really enjoyed doing things like that. You see the stuff on TV, but it doesn't do it justice. So we like to find things like that we can continue to do and help out where we can, because one day it's going to be us needing that. It could hopefully it never is, but one day it could be us that needs the help. And I'm going to hope there's people like Sarah and you to come out and do the same thing,
Well, it's not just me and Sarah, it was you too. That's one thing that, I remember where I learned a lot about your character and who you are, is because you were there every single day, even bringing Lil Keaton along with you sometimes, so it made a huge change. And at the same time, even when Sarah wasn't there, she was heavily involved. I think you two single-handedly raised over $10,000. I don't even remember the number, but I think it was over $10,000 just towards the tornado relief. So, and talk about impacting lives. That's something that you all are definitely doing. And I know that you're setting out to achieve. You've achieved a lot, and you're setting out to achieve more. But you didn't used to always have this success. right? Tell me about, I know you kind of touched on a little bit about the daycare and tell me about some of your failures if you're willing to go that route.
So the biggest failure that I think we've had is, as much as I loved it, I loved children growing up, and I worked in daycare up until I graduated college, and that's why I opened one. But as much as we helped the kids and the staff there, because we had to pay them and everything, that was probably our biggest failure. There was a lot of overhead costs, and we didn't realize that going into it. When we started it, we sold our boat for $3,500. I borrowed a little bit of cash from my dad. Zach's mom brought a little bit of cash to the table, but I mean, we probably had 10,000 or less to start up a daycare, and it didn't take long for us just to get behind. And there was no money to pay payroll taxes and things like that. So eventually we got to the point. I would love to have that daycare up and running now. Even though I'm a real estate agent, I would have staff there, to take care of the kids and everything. But we were taking my commissions that I was making was going to pay payroll. His electrician checks were going to pay payroll, and we were working to keep the daycare running, and our personal bills kind of got put on the back burner. And so I think that's our biggest failure, but I do not regret it, because that's what
it changed the rest of our lives. It gave us what we thought, the life we thought we were going to get out of that daycare, we didn't get, but it sparked something in us. Like, we're going to get it. It might not have been that route, but there is going to be, and I think we found it. And I was ready when I started this. It's like, if this don't work, we're going to find something else. We're going to make it. I want what we thought we were going to get there.
Yeah.
I know one thing that, we've had conversations around is it's wins or lessons, right? No losses. And it sounds like you had some lessons in that, in terms of, at least if nothing else, on the business side of things and the financial aspect. So if you had to say what was one lesson, because we're going to talk about like, how do you become who you need to become in order to be successful, what was your lesson from that chapter of your life?
Just to keep on pushing through, I guess, and don't harp on the bad things that happen to you, because if you just change your behaviors, you can overcome those ruts that you fall into. And I owe that to Keller Williams. Before I came to Keller Williams, I was stuck in like a victim mindset, a scarcity mindset. I was raised to think that money is the root of all evil. But, when I came over to KW, I learned that money is good for the good it can do, and if you aren't making your own living, how are you going to help others and impact others and give back the way we want to?
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. And one thing, as we were preparing for this, I asked you the question, how has mindset played a role in your current achievements? And you said mindset is everything. Can you expand on that?
I have a little thing in my office that says mindset is everything. It really is. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, then you can't. So you're right either way. You have to believe in yourself before you can achieve anything, really. You're your own enemy, and you have to be careful of what you feed your mind.
Yeah, I like that. You have to be very careful about what you feed your mind. And, one thing is, you said, if you have to believe it to achieve it. And if you don't believe it, you might not achieve it. Was there a time that you always believed in yourself?
No, no.
And what shifted?
I had to participate in, I stopped listening to music in my car. I started listening to nothing but podcasts, Dana Gentry and Linda McKissick's Everything Life and Real Estate. I would listen to that, or I would listen to motivational speakers, Les Brown, Denzel Washington. I replaced all my music with this. Okay. I would listen to Audible books. I would read. I would do affirmations. I constantly had to feed my mind with positivity instead of any type of, I love music, but there's just no space in my mind for it. When I get in a rut, sometimes I'll listen to music now, but I really don't even listen to music much at all anymore. What about you?
Well, mindset was a big problem for me probably until a year ago. I mean, even while I was doing real estate and I was growing, I was still just had and I did. We've talked about this before. You can get in your own way, your own limiting thoughts and your beliefs. And I'm thinking, well, I know that I see this person was really successful and did this, but I was like, well, that's not in the cards for me. I can't do that. You know what I mean? And, I had to really beat that mindset because, I can do that and I'm going to, and it's just, it was hard to break through that to get to it.
Yeah. And we have a saying that is, it's don't compare your insides to other people's outsides. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something me and Zach, I think we've talked a little bit about that. What does that mean to you?
Just kind of like what I was saying, like in my head, like I see other people and they look like they've just always had it. They were just born lucky and successful. And that's the way I thought about things. And I had a very happy childhood, but I had a very poor childhood. So in my head, I was like, well, this is just how my life's going to be. You know what I mean? And that person got the suit and the Mercedes. He was just born into that kind of family. And then I talked to people and they have similar backgrounds, and like, I never knew it. And that made me realize no one knows that I did either, so that I was in my own way.
Yeah.
So when he says, I was raised that way too. My mom and dad were both very successful, provided a very good life, but they had it, but they were very, I was still raised with that scarce mindset. Like every penny that they made, they saved. And Dad still can't wrap his head around my thoughts, because everything that I come up with is a crazy idea to him. And that's how I was raised. Like, you're not lucky. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve that vacation. We don't deserve things. We just work and work and work and work. And that's just how I was raised. And so it was very hard for me to come out of that mindset.
Yeah. And I know that you all from not only from a mindset standpoint, but I would argue every aspect of your life, from when I first met you both, 4 years ago, going on 5 years ago, you've changed so much. And in the way that the way that you think, the way you conduct yourselves, and it's evident in what you've achieved so far and what you're also going to achieve going forward. What is the one thing that made you realize that you needed to change in order to achieve some of these goals?
Probably being stuck in the same cycle every day, doing the same things and expecting something different to happen. How are you going to do the same thing every day and expect to grow? You're going to get the same results every time. And then when we realized that those results weren't good enough, that's not what we wanted. We knew we had to change. We want different results, so we have to do something different.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to what Sarah was saying about, not listening to music and instead injecting that positivity, because she recognized that she wanted to be and I'm kind of assuming here, correct me if I'm wrong, but you recognize you wanted to be a more positive person. So that's why you put that positivity in place. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then Zach, from you, whether it's personal or professional, what did you change? And let's do professional. So you said you were doing the same things over and over again. What changed that led to going from 15 transactions to 51 in less than 2 years?
Well, it kind of goes back to what we was talking about a minute ago. I just stopped getting in my own way, and my mindset was in my way. So that's really something I had to tear down to move forward and realize that, I can do this. And the only person holding me back is me. Nobody else is holding me back. Nobody's going out and saying, hey, I really want to make sure Zach don't make it today. No, that was me doing that. And that's something I had to get through.
Yeah. So we covered a lot on the B. Before we move on to our next questions, what about the do? So once you recognized who you needed to become and you started making activities towards that, talking in your business now, what are you doing differently today that you didn't do 2 years ago?
That's a tough one.
I think a lot of it's also doing things better than we did 2 years ago. Or 2 years ago, we would just say, hey, we need to lead gen and put ourselves out there. And then you're uncomfortable doing it, so you didn't do it. Maybe you took a little tiny step into it. And as as the last 2 years went on, we've got more comfortable. And now, instead of taking baby steps, I feel like we're trying to take leaps,
So I stopped listening to the limiting beliefs, I think, because when I first started, picking up that phone was brutal. Like, it was like I would have a conversation with myself, like trying to pick up the phone. Like, it was literally crippling to think about picking up the phone and dialing a phone number. And lots of coaching. We've had lots of coaching. Shelly Westendorf was my PC coach, productivity coach, whenever I started in real estate, and she has made a huge impact in my life. And then we moved on to coaching with you, and then listening to Kelly. We go to every training that we can, and that helps us not only with our confidence, but that's going to help us better serve our clients as well. And so Kelly's played a huge part, and now we are in MAPS coaching. So we have a coach in St. Louis. Her name's Robin, and she's awesome.
And we try for people who might not be with KW, MAPS coaching, just you care to briefly explain what that is?
So we pay a fee every month, and we have a Zoom call once a week with they're called MAPS coach. And that's a 30-minute phone call, and they just help. We talk about what issues we're having in business, and we come up with resolutions together to move forward on those.
So you mean tell me, did you pay somebody to coach you in business?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in personal life, our physical trainer, because we talked to you one day, and hire somebody that's better than you to coach you. You know what I mean? So we did, and we took that advice for the MAPS coach. We took it for our personal trainer, and they know better than you do. Why not? I want to learn, And at first, I didn't want to do the MAPS coaching. I remember me and her argued about it, and I didn't want. My mindset was in my way. But now we've only been doing it 2 months, and is it a coincidence? Is it her? So, let y'all decide. But we have over double the amount of deals pending at one time than we ever have in our entire
careers.
Time doing this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I said it that way, because I remember having those conversations around. It's not cheap, right? It's a financial investment in your future, and I think it's paying off for you all. I mean, I know we were talking the other day, double-digit pendings. I mean, it's something's working, right? And we've got to think that that's a part of it, in addition to the activities that you're doing, which goes back to the do. So what do you guys? What do you ultimately want out of life? Like, what are you putting all this work in for to ultimately achieve?
For me, it's building a life worth living, and experiences worth giving. So I would like to get to a point where, instead of working for money, then our money works for us. Mm-hmm. And I want to make as many people's lives, like I said, around us as bigger. We have other family members that we would like to help out, and friends that we would like to help, and just build a legacy to leave for our future generations in our family as well. We have 2 kids that I hope, can enjoy it.
Yeah, so money works for us instead of working for money. Talk to me about that.
Well, that comes a lot of, like, I always want to get into investing, passive income, to where we're not when you work for money, you wake up, you clock in, you put in your labor all day, you clock out, you go home, and you get a little check at the end of the week. But when money's working for you, you got to invest it here and there. It's growing. It's making you money while you're living your life. And I think that's kind of the direction that, of course, we'd all like to go that direction one day.
Yeah, the big difference is the subject of this episode, right? So who do you have to become in order to get your money to work for you. That to me is you have to be learning based, and you have to seek out information, right? So you have to put yourself in front of people who are making money work for them in order to learn from them. And then what do you have to do is the activities in order to, whether it be save up the money for the investment, things like that, or put the work in order, if you're going passive income, things like that. And then you ultimately achieve getting money to work for you also. And I know that's something that we've talked about, but the same principles that have taken you to from where you were at 3 years, 4 years ago to where you're at now in business will take you where you want to go in wealth. And in your entrepreneurial, things and giving back to community, all of it kind of applies. So I love that you said that. And I just wanted to make sure we had a quick conversation, because I think the impact of understanding that is huge. So what about what you stand for? Like, what has that changed over time, or is it stayed the same? Or
I feel like both of us were raised to be honest and loyal, and just have a respect for everybody. And I don't really feel like that has changed, but I think that our mindset has helped us implement that in our lives better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, our mindset and where we're at today, we're able to, I guess, implement those values more than we did before. When we were just stuck in a loop, where we're going at now, I feel like we can, I'm not sure how to say it, how to word this.
So do you feel like that as your world gets bigger, then you have more opportunities to either demonstrate, teach, or enact your values?
Yeah.
Right. Like if we weren't to a point last year when the tornadoes hit, if we weren't to a point in our lives where we could pull away from our business, and before I might have wanted to help, but would I have done it? No. Probably not, because I feel like I wouldn't have had the means to, or I wouldn't have been able to pull away from work to go spend 2 or 3 weeks and 2 hours away from home to help. And so I think that just if you get your mindset right, I feel like other aspects of your life will fall together, I guess.
Totally agree with that. One thing you wrote down that I thought was impactful, I'd like you to speak on, is it's more about generational transformations for us. What's that mean?
So I hear people, friends, and even family, realtors are vultures. They're commission hungry. All they're out for is the dollar. And I would like to change that stigma, because realtors are very nice people, and we have to make a living, yes, but it goes much deeper than putting a sign in the yard or chasing the commission dollars. When we sell somebody a home, like, we're making an impact on their lives for generations to come. And so generational transformation is what we're shooting for, instead of that stigma that realtors currently have.
So this isn't generational transformation just for you, but for multiple people and your client, right, and everybody. I didn't realize that when we were preparing for this. What a powerful statement that is. I like that. You got me thinking. Like,
yeah, I mean,
adjust my goals a little bit now.
I mean, it is. It's a whole lot more than a sign in the yard. We genuinely care for our clients and just people in general. I love talking to people. I love getting to know people. And for me, yes, I have to make a living. Okay. So money is important, but it's not near as important as to me as the lives that I touch.
That's good. And then one last thing before we move on is you wrote down the biggest change for us was adopting the mindset to implement what we wished to stand for. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that.
That's what I was trying to say earlier, and I wasn't wording myself very well. Yeah. So the mindset where we're at now, we can implement, some of these these values, like, you know, integrity, honesty, and loyalty, like we talked about. You know, we had those limiting mindsets before. Yeah, we may have felt that way, you know what I mean? But we weren't going to get out and do anything about it. You know, we weren't going to show that in our lives. The only one that knew we had those values were ourselves, because we sure as heck didn't show anybody else. You know what I mean?
That's really good. That made me think about something. I can't remember. It might have been Zach, might have been you I had this conversation with about 6 months ago. And it was, you know, put stuff out to the world and then let the world hold you accountable to becoming what you said. And I think that that's something that is huge. If you want to achieve a really big goal, put that goal out to the world and watch, you know, what happens. Because I think it is, you know, you have to believe it in order to achieve it, and then you have to do it, and then finally you do achieve. But, you know, putting stuff out there and putting yourselves out there is what has led to your growth, and getting it's not just the activities that you're doing in terms of your lead generation and things like that, but it's like people see you change, right? And the change that you've had has been so exponential that you start to attract other people that want to change. You know, there's probably listeners out here that are listening to us right now and are like, man, I need to get a hold of Sarah and Zack, because I've been where they're at. And now I want to get to where they're going. So you guys have a story to tell. And I think that that's something that is really, really important, is to make sure that you consistently tell your story, because you do have such an amazing story of growth. So don't ever forget that, and always keep doing what you're doing. So we talked about the principles and values with honesty, loyalty, integrity. What or who do you need to become in order to achieve everything you want to achieve?
I think that you just need to become 1% better every day than you was the day before.
That sounds familiar. Like it's a book, maybe.
Yeah, it's a book.
Somewhere before.
Atomic Habits. That book taught me that. And for me, or for us, we just have to stay focused and really tap in to reach our full potential, you know, and not let your limited beliefs hold you back.
Yeah, I love that. So when you're setting your goals, or you want to change, whether it's, you know, business or professionally, one thing is about setting big goals. And I know there's two different type of people. There's people that set a goal, like huge goals, and if they miss the goal, if you aim for the moon and you miss, you land amongst the stars. And then there's other people that set more achievable goals just because they feel like if they don't accomplish the goal, then they kind of get crushed a little bit. So first, which one are you, and then why?
Well, I think we got some pretty big goals. We're shooting for the moon here, and I think if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough. And if like her family, you know, she was talking about it earlier. When we tell them things that we want to do, they think it's crazy, which is fine. But they scare us. They do sound a little bit crazy, but I do think it's achievable, and I think that we're going to do it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was getting a little feedback there. So you said if your goal is not big enough to scare you, then it's just not big enough.
Yeah, if you don't make it big enough to scare you, then you're limiting yourself.
Why is that important? Like, does a big goal motivate you more? Does it push you into activity? Like, expand on that a little bit.
Both.
Yeah, both. If my goal was just to do 4 million in sales this year, yeah, I probably would have hit it. And then what would I have done? Would I have stopped? You know, I hit my goal, I'm done. You know,
so 2021, you hit 9.1 million, 51 clients, closings. What was your goal?
I think it was 12 million. I think our goal was 12 million, and 70 closings was our goal.
Wow, you got really close. Now, do you feel like last year was a win?
Yeah, I think it was a win. We didn't hit it, but if we would have
no buts.
If we would have
no tries.
If we would have set it, lower, 6 million or something, would we have hit it and just pulled our foot off the gas and just cruised on through the rest of the year? Probably, So
I love that. What's your goal this year?
This year we wanted to do we wanted to do 15 million. And I think
right now we're on track.
We're on track. I think we're going to hit it.
You know you're going to hit it, did you say?
I know I'm going to hit it.
There you go.
You know,
yeah, y'all are doing all the right activities and they know you're going to do it. So, part of what I'm doing right now is pushing you outside your comfort zone and making you talk about things that you probably weren't planning on talking about in this meeting. So talk to me about why getting outside your comfort zone is so important.
Because if you, like we said earlier, if you do the same things and don't change your behavior and don't get uncomfortable, then you're going to get the same results. So if you don't get uncomfortable, you have to do the things that people are not willing to do to have the things that people won't have or don't have.
And, you know, I found the more you get outside of that comfort zone, it gets a lot more comfortable out there.
Yeah, it does. I was going to touch base on that. I'm so glad you said that. So you mentioned earlier that when you were first getting going, like making the calls, whether it's to your sphere of influence or database or what have you, was really comfortable. What's that feel like today?
For me, it's still hard.
It's still hard, but affirmations help me through that, I guess.
Yeah. But it used to be hard to where I didn't do it. And now it's hard to where I just do it anyways.
Oh, that's good. So it didn't become necessarily easier or less uncomfortable. It's just you recognize the results you were getting. So like now you're more willing. Wow.
There's things that I wouldn't want to do. A year ago, if you asked me to do what I'm doing right now, I wouldn't have done this. You know what I mean? So doing this is outside of my comfort zone right now. But those things are important to do because the things that you want in life are outside of that comfort zone. Like I have to leave this zone to go get that. You know?
So I'm looking over top of I think it's your right-hand shoulder there, and there's a little trophy up on your wall. It has 4 letters: business objective, life by design. You know what that stands for, BOLD, right? Yeah. So you attended BOLD. Just out of curiosity, we did not prepare for this. I just honestly, genuinely want to know, did attending BOLD have anything to do with your mindset and or pushing past your comfort zones?
Yeah, I believe so.
When we were preparing for this, when I was coming up with the things that have helped me, helped us reach our goals, helped us change our mindset and things like that, it was number 1, Keller Williams, and number 2, BOLD. And I would add to that the BOLD laws. Those are real. I have some family going through some personal issues, and every once in a while I will send him a BOLD law, and it applies to all areas of our lives. We talk about them at home. Our kids know about them.
Same. We do the exact same thing. So it's Jen, and I know Jen's on here listening now, but she'll kind of cross-eyed me every once in a while because I'll just spit a little bold law out, especially when it comes around mindset or limiting beliefs and things like that. So yeah, it goes, and now she does it back to me too, which is a beautiful thing because we create an environment. Because we've talked about this on previous episodes, but you're some of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So spend time with people who are like-minded and watch you all elevate and grow together. The growth that you had is been pretty amazing. I'm sure that you had to make some sacrifices towards that. Some sacrifices that you probably chose to make and some that you didn't. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So our nights got long. Our mornings got earlier because you have to put in the work. And I think you choose your hard. So was it harder to stay up at night and get up earlier in the morning, or was it harder to be broke and struggle for the rest of our lives? So I think that's.
Yeah, and one of your big sacrifices, like you talked about earlier, was just negative music. You loved the music, but you got rid of it, and it changed your mindset.
And it's not necessarily that it was negative, but I like all types of music. And I still do. I lied a little bit because I do have to listen to the heavy metal stuff when I'm in the gym. It gets me it gets me fired up. And I think that the reason why is because heavy metal, it kind of, I feel like it almost will make people angry.
You ought to see her headbanging on the treadmill when she's running.
I mean, it literally, like, and I think that's why it pushes me to run, because it kind of gets in your head, like makes you not, I don't get angry, but amped. Like it gives you that energy.
You get amped up.
Yeah, amped up, I guess. But like I like R&B and rap, but all the rap is garbage. You know, I love country, but it's usually depressing. So I mean, I had to get rid of the music. I did.
You just recognized something that wasn't leading to what you wanted to accomplish. You said something really powerful. Either put in the work or stay broke for the rest of your life. So so you basically made the conscious decision that you wanted to make a financial change in your life, and then you went out and put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And that's part of what we're talking about is, who did you have to become? You had to become that person that was willing to put work in order to be able to do the things like you said in here, being learning based, staying up late, waking up early. First, you had to believe it, that was going to lead to success. Then you had to do it. And now look at what you're achieving. So
reading, I had to start reading, and I hated to read. I hated it. I can't even retain things. Like I used to have to read the page 10 times before I would remember anything that I just read. So you said adopt that learning mindset. Yes, I definitely had to do that. I didn't mind going and listening and watching people do PowerPoints and stuff like that. But as far as picking up a book, I've never been a reader. So that's
how much do you read now?
I don't read as much as I would like to, but I try to read a book every probably 2 months. So that's not great, but I did. I mean, I went on a girls' trip last summer or last fall. I think it was in the fall.
I think it was fall.
But I read Myra Oliver's Down Home Money book while I was there. So it just depends. Like, sometimes I get in a mode where I can read and finish a book faster, but I try to, do at least 6 a year.
So I love that, by the way. I actually used to read a lot more, and I've cut back in order to retain more. So now I used to try to read 2 books a month, and now I'm down to 1 book a month, and I take notes on those books. So that way I help retain and have something to go back to reference. So don't get caught up in the number, get caught up in the activity. Change is hard. We've talked about this a little bit. Have you ever wanted to just along this, somewhere along this journey, did you ever just want to give up and stuff got hard? And then how'd you push through those times?
And since we've been in this business, I haven't wanted to, because I know what I wanted. I just had to get there. But in other ventures of life, we owned a business before. Yeah, we wanted to give up a lot of times, and and I've had jobs where I wanted to give up. But in this, I don't want to give up. I just want to keep going. Maybe I'm not there yet. Maybe I'm not burnt out enough yet. But in this, I haven't wanted to give up. But it's like the choose your hard. Like, this is hard. It's simple, but it's hard.
What about setbacks? Talk to me about setbacks. How do you, have you had any, and how did you ever overcome those?
Yeah, for sure. We've had our share of setbacks. I think everybody does, but you have to be willing to fail forward. And we talked about it a while ago. We don't have, we don't lose, we learn. So if something happens, I think you told me this, I'm not for sure, but I try not to harp on anything for more than 24 hours. I'll allow myself to be upset for 24 hours, and then I've got to pick up the pieces, move on, and figure out how to overcome it and just learn from it instead of taking it as a total loss. Whereas before, I would have just sat and harped and cried or whatever for weeks,
Yeah, now we try to find our own DNA in it. If something goes wrong or we lose a client or a listing we were supposed to get, we see it on the MLS with another agent. Those are, lessons to learn. Because
what did we do that we could do different to?
Nobody stole our
sure
client. We lost our client. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's good. I can remember that was me, Sarah, that we were having that conversation. It's something that I believe in. You get 24 hours and move on. That goes back to the "this too shall pass" conversation we had last week with Nick Martin. And, it's just something that I've learned. Hey, get 24 hours, pick yourself back up, ready to go again. And I think that that's something that's hugely important to recognize, is that you can't control what happens to you. You can 100% control the way you react to it and what you do moving forward from that point. So I think that that's a huge, huge thing. And I'm so glad that you all brought that up and talked about that. So along this journey, you probably had some help, I'm assuming. And what are the tools or the materials or the people that you reached out to, that you listened to, that you had conversations with in order to be able to help keep yourself on track?
Well, I think that we're very blessed in our area to have Kellyanne. She's smart. She's always available. I could text her anytime. And I mean, to be so busy, that woman is pretty responsive. Okay. So I have her, our faith. I'm so dedicated to my faith. Like I know that everything's going to be okay. You mentioned Nick Martin. I mean, he's our pastor. Him and Roger are great. So I depend on my faith a lot. Coaching books, any trainings. If there's a training, I don't care if it's 4 hours away. If I can make it happen, I'm going to be there. And if I can afford to go, because sometimes those can be pretty expensive. Family reunion was a huge one. That was very expensive, but we gained a lot from that.
I think it was worth it. Family reunion
it was definitely worth it. We'll be going to mega camp in August. Jody in the office is always willing to mastermind. You, Matt, coaching with you, or Coach Robin, Shelly. We have a big amount of people that I feel like, we kind of fall back on sometimes.
And there's even some agents from other brokerages that we talk to and that help out a lot. So,
and what's crazy to me is that people, and I post about this on Facebook a lot, but people think that, and we are competitors, but we have we are such good friends, and like these competitors help us in our business.
So that's probably the best tool, is the people that we're around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And let me ask you this: did those people just raise their hand and grab you and say, "Hey, let's come alongside of you and make this happen," or did you seek out those relationships?
I mean, probably a little bit of both.
I don't really know. I think it just kind of developed, and it was just there before we realized it. You know what I mean?
You hear Linda McKissick talk about it all the time: relationships, and that's just what it is. It's building relationships, I guess. Yeah,
100%. I love that. So, what have you, if we had to sum it all up as we start to wrap up today's episode, if you had to, pass along one thing out of your journey, and this would be for each of you separately. So Zach, I'll start with you. If you had to pass along one thing that you've learned along this journey, what would it be?
Not to stand in your own way. Like, you can do it. If you put your mind to it, you put in the work and the effort, you set your goals, you can achieve them. And the only person in your way is yourself. And I stood in my way for a lot of years. I was in my own way. I'm glad I finally moved out of the way, because I got some big things coming.
I love that. Sarah?
I have more than one. There's not.
Oh, you can get more than one. Good. You're good.
My biggest pieces of advice are, like I said earlier, don't harp on the bad things that happen. Just figure out what you could have done differently to move forward. plus stay learning based, plus keep an open mind. And things aren't always how they appear to be.
Yeah, those are all really good. The last thing is, what is the mindset that you personally believe everybody should have?
Growth minded, positive mindsets, and being growth minded.
Get rid of the victim mindset. That was my biggest issue when I first started in real estate. I heard you touch on it earlier. I'm a completely different person than I was before I started with Keller Williams, like a totally different person. I know that within business, but I was out on the river with my cousin last summer, and one of her friends said, Sarah, I used to not even be able to stand to be around you. I couldn't stand you. You're so much different now. What happened? And that was a huge aha for me. It made my cousin mad. Like, she was ready to fight him. She was like, stop talking about my cousin like that, because we're like sisters. And I was like, no, he's right. I was miserable. Like, I was a miserable person, and I had to change my activities to become somebody new.
And, you know, going through this business ventures and our mindsets change, it's even helped our marriage. You know, our marriage is in a way better place than it was. Like
parenting, all aspects of our life.
It's not just what we do at work. It's changing what we do at home.
Yeah. So Jen's posted on Facebook, said, I love that, Sarah. Don't harp on the bad. Find how you could react or respond differently.
Right.
So
I used to not do that. I used to just sit and harp on it. And
well, you know, we used to always, and I believe it was Dana Gentry who I heard it from maybe originally, but it's, you know, when you're pointing the finger at somebody else, how many fingers are pointing back at you? Yeah. And I think that's, you know, that's the thing. And that's what goes from that abundance mindset to, you know, and talking mentality, you know, victim mindset, things like that, is a lot of times, you know, the natural tendency is to get into victim mode and blame everything that's happening on somebody else. When in actuality, we all have DNA inside of everything, you know, in some way, shape, or form. We can, if we look within hard enough, we can find where we could have done something differently. And I think that's huge. And thank you for that reminder, because I kind of needed that too. So that helped me a lot.
We all need reminders sometimes. I still do, for sure.
All right. Any last words before we part ways?
Well, I really appreciate you having us on here. I really did enjoy doing this and talking.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want you to know that, you know, I'm so proud of everything you all have accomplished, and you're doing amazing, and you're just now scratching the surface. And, you know, I'm sure that I'll have you back on here at some point, and you'll hit some new level of success, and we'll get to talk about busting through plateaus or different things like that. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been fantastic. I love who you are becoming. I love what you're doing, and I love what you're achieving. So keep up the great job. And for everybody else, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Bye.